chapter 5, and we got down through verse 12 last time, where it says, "The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep." And which I mean, there's other factors involved at times, but if you tend to have a lot of trouble sleeping, one thing always to check is, your heart. Something not right there. You're not laboring for the Lord as you need to be. Maybe the Lord's taking sleep from you, and that's always something to consider. But I mean, other factors too, of course, other things to be wrong. But that's always something to consider. In fact, that'll be the first thing a Christian thinks about, and then go from there with checking things out. Verse 13. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. Uh, that is, they're not people who try to give and be a blessing to others. They should have hoarded all for themselves and winds up doing them more harm than good. Which quite common. You see that all the time. Uh, I just thinking this week, Super Bowl and everything, Sunday night and all that, and a lot of these athletes, it's really pitiful. I mean, used to people that had a what we call a profession. They're professionals at something. Traditionally, that has been doctors, lawyers, people that went to school to train and became experts at a certain field and just stayed with that for that. That's what they're known for. Whatever the profession might be. Uh, People that are professionals have traditionally had a certain way of life, a certain way of conducting themselves, behaving themselves, and it's not, usually if you see somebody shooting off the big mouth in public, making a scene, you can almost automatically uh, say, well, that's not a professional. That's some low life bum out there, some rascal who don't know how to behave himself. But it's gotten to the point these days where professionals are, people in professional sports making $1 million a year, some of them more than that, out there just you see it. Last week had some of it going on. Any major ball game coming up, the opposing teams always have one or two players, usually have one or two players that mouth off at each other, back and forth in the news media. They call it trash talk, and they just can't resist getting in on it. And Joe, no sense in that. You'd think somebody got enough money, to the point to where they're actually rich. You'd think they'd be content and not do themselves any harm, and just but these fellows just ruin their reputation. There's a we was talking at work the other day. I mean, they still got their career, but what people think of them has just been lowered so much. There was a comedian back. He was pretty popular back in the '80s, and he had a sharp sense of humor. He'd make you laugh. He could say things to make you laugh, and there was no need for this guy to be dirty. There was no sense in him being dirty at all. But for some reason, he just chose to be dirty and be filthy mouth. And he's gotten away from a lot. His name was Eddie Murphy. He's gotten away from a lot of that, as far as I know, and doesn't do that anymore. But and I guess has made some fairly decent movies maybe since then. But he got in the movie business. But I mean, I don't know if he has or not. But I think he's probably made some better type movies than he did early on. I probably wouldn't go see any of his movies. I don't care for him at all. But point is, he basically cleaned up his act in some ways, but it doesn't matter. The damage that he did early on, it cannot be repaired. For example, I don't care what kind of movie Jane Fonda appears in. I don't care if it's a rated G movie just for children, just a wonderful thing for children. I don't care if she gets saved and does it for Christian families. I'm not interested. I'm just not interested in Jane Fonda. She went against this country. She went against this government at a time when nobody should have done that. And I just, some people just ruin it. You expect people in professional places, levels of profession, to behave themselves in a way that maintains their integrity, and too many times they don't. And their popularity just becomes their own tragic end, or at least as far as scarring their name, wrecking their name. Many of them do that. Uh, I was thinking, I kind of got off my track there, but I was just thinking a lot of these professional athletes, one of the first things I'd do if I was any kind of a coach or owner of a team, that'd be the first thing in the contract. Well, not the first, but one of the very things in their contract when they sign with me. Uh, any filthy talk, any filthy language, any trash talk about the opposing teams, anything like that. You're not a spokesman for this team. We don't pay you to talk. We pay you to play football. You open your mouth one time, you're gone. Because it's just the whole sports world is just filled with it. And those people, like it or not, children look up to them. Children look up to these people as being great role models. Or what kind of a role model is somebody shooting off their dirty mouth all the time and bragging every time they do something? That's no role model. No kid needs to grow up acting like that. So they cease to be professionals. You think with all the money they get paid, they can at least behave themselves, but they can't do it. They can't do it. So they end up just being their hurt, evidently. Well, anyway, verse 13, there is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. Maybe some of these fellows just need to humble themselves and start giving out some of what they got, and they won't feel quite so high and mighty, and maybe they'd control their mouth a little better. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. That is, he loses his wealth, just doesn't get to keep it. Verse 15, as he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return as he came. Job said that was his case. Remember that in Job. And shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that hath labored for the wind? That is, the wind in the sense of the wind just came and blew it all away. Didn't get to hang on to it. So what did you labor for? Oh, just for the wind to come blow my stuff away. I don't have it anymore. That's what Solomon's commenting about. All his days also he eateth in darkness. It's like darkness in the sense of no spiritual light, no great. I mean, not literally sitting in the dark eating, but it could be that. But I mean, probably not. But darkness in the sense of friends and family, maybe gone, and not rich and wealthy anymore. My life is just dark. I'm going through some dark days, that kind of thing. His days also he eateth in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and wrath with his sickness. Somebody gets old, and or if somebody has a whole lot of money in the prime of life, they build up a great wealth, and then they don't get to hang on to it. Maybe the kids, just squander it all and waste it or something, and they wind up with nothing. Get old, down there, 70, 80, 90 years old, something like that. There they are in the nursing home, no better off than the guy laying next to them. I thought of that when I was up at nursing home at Union City. I've told you about a couple well-known businessmen for 40, 50 years in Union City. I was shocked. I was shocked to find them in a nursing home. I just couldn't believe it. I just seen their names on the wall right across the hall from one another. They were right next door to some another, and it just stunned me. I thought that can't be them, and it was. And I thought, well, that's something. They wind up going to the same place some beggar, down the end of the street goes to when it's all over. All his days also he eateth in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and wrath in his sickness. When he gets old, gets sick, has lots of sorrow, lots of wrath. In spite of how much money he had, he wound up dying like everybody else and going through the same sickness and sorrow, and sometimes a lot more. Sometimes a poor person doesn't have enough money to put himself in the hospital and pay all the bills and keep himself alive a lot longer. He just lasts as long as he can naturally, and the next thing you know, he's dead and gone. Some of these rich folks just keep themselves all doped up, and they just prolong their life, prolonging their agony. Sometimes they do that. But if you lost, you just by nature, without even knowing why, by nature, you just want to live as long as you can. Just keep on living. But a lot of them do that. 18, behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he had taken under the sun. Now, he's not saying hoard it up, be greedy like the other fellow, but he is saying it's okay to have it and enjoy it. Eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he had taken under the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. That is, he's worthy of it, because he's working and earning it. every man, also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God. A good reference for that would be 2 Thessalonians 3, verse 10, about if a man doesn't work, neither should he eat. Well, then the obvious implication is if you do work, honestly, you're entitled to eat, and which is what's going on here. So the only people who ought to feel, it's kind of ironic. What's that? Phone call coming in? Why do people do that? Who don't know a church is having services on Wednesday night? Put a call, True. Yes. Anyway, it's kind of ironic. I mean, there's always on Thanksgiving. There's always you sit down to have your Thanksgiving meal. There's always somebody, out there in the liberal establishment trying to make you feel guilty because you got so much abundance. And think of all those who have less. Well, if somebody has less and they've done the best they can to provide for themselves and they just could not succeed, okay, that's different. But the fact is, in this country, most people who have less have not been working to provide for themselves. When I say less, I don't mean necessarily less than you, but I mean they're really poor. They don't have anything to eat today. That person like that. Well, you can't get anything to eat just sitting around doing nothing. You got to get out and work and provide for yourself. And if you've done that, then you're entitled to sit down and have a good meal. And the people really, it's going to sound like a mean thing to say, but the people who really ought to be feeling guilty on Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or any other kind of big meal are some of the people that are standing around in the soup line waiting on a handout. The ones that are getting something for nothing are the ones who ought to be feeling guilty, not the ones giving it to them, or the ones that are sitting at home enjoying the food that they worked and paid for. So it's not that I don't have compassion, I do, but it's, we're not living in a third world country. We're living in the United States of America, and unemployment rate is like less than 5%, I think. And, there's work out there. I mean, you go down here, there's a guy out here, help me. Go down the block, there's a store with a help wanted sign right on the front door. I have no sympathy for people like that. The guy, he could do something. But if you've been working and providing for yourself, then you're entitled to rejoice in your labor and enjoy the gift of God. Verse 20, for he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy. God answereth him in the joy of his heart. That is, he won't remember a lot of the bad time, because there is a reward that comes later, and he gets blessed in that. He gets his food, he gets his paycheck, and if you had kind of like if you have a bad day at work, well, you don't remember it next week usually. You get a paycheck, take care of this week, and this week is gone. Okay, thank God for that. Another week gone, and next Monday morning you get up and you start a new week. You just, you don't remember. You got any sense, you don't remember every little bad thing that happened. Some people do. Some people, it's all that's why their lives are miserable. But basically, you don't do that. The bad times and all those things, you just kind of forget that, and God, answers you with a little joy, and keeps you going. All right, chapter 6, verse 1. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men, a man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul. Wanteth in the sense of lacking, doesn't lack anything, all of his needs are met. So that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. So Solomon had observed that. He observed certain cases where somebody would get, load up plenty, and work and provide and become quite successful, and then something happens and they don't get to enjoy their labor. He observed that, and didn't find that to be a very pleasant thing, because all kind of things can happen to make it happen. I mean, you might work and just get plenty, and then the next thing you know, the IRS and the state taxes and local, property taxes, one tax after another, takes it away from you. You might work, build up your estate, build up your farm, and then here comes some local developer under eminent domain, takes your property away from you. See, that's a vanity. That's certainly a wicked thing. It shouldn't be happening. You might have all your stuff laid out there and then get ready to enjoy your retirement or enjoy your last few years of your work, and then you're in retirement, enjoy your children, your grandchildren coming on, and all that, and then war breaks out. Comes a war breaks out, and the enemies invade the land or something or other. It doesn't happen here that much, but it happens all over the world. Somebody invades your land, and some bad thing happens like that. A big flood comes through, hurricane comes through, and messes up, tears up everything you got. And you didn't have the right kind of insurance to cover it. All kind of stuff can happen. Somebody might just steal from you, rip you off. Anything can happen. Chapter 6, verse 3: If a man begot 100 children and lived many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he. The idea is being, like it'd be better not to be born than to wind up that way. Of course, the idea is that for someone not to have a burial is a very dishonorable thing in the Bible, and even today, it's still common today. I mean, somebody is entitled to a burial no matter who they are. It might be the biggest scumbag in the county, but he gets a burial when he dies. It's just normal to bury people. What else are you gonna do with them anyway? I think, but it's not like we just bury certain people and then just burn the others or throw them off in a ditch somewhere. I mean, they're entitled to have their own time when you dig a hole in the ground and you say a few words over them and put them in it and cover them up. And that's pretty common among men, whether they be rich or poor. And so he's entitled to that. Of course, some of the, you read about some of the kings, some of them didn't get a burial. Some of them were cast forth right out to sea like a dead dog or something. Some of them just got a standard burial and nothing else. Some of them had a great burning, a great elaborate type, funeral service and everything, different things there. But the idea is that if a man lives his life and there's not a proper end to it, a proper capstone put on the end of the thing, so he's just pointing out that that's a vanity. That's not a good thing. Verse 4: For he cometh in with vanity, and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. The idea is just some people, their life is just a big old blank, just a big void. Make sure that's not the case with you. Make sure you make an impact in this world and make a dent in this thing. Moreover, he hath not seen the sun, referring to the man with the untimely birth. He hath not seen the sun, nor known anything. This hath more rest than the other. That is, actually, verse 4 and 5 would be reference to the man with the untimely birth. That is better than the man that comes into life and doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't have anything worth to count for when it's all over, or has a bad, tragic end that just mars the whole thing. You said it'd be better if he'd never been born. Verse 6: Yea, though he live 1,000 years twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place. Well, see, that's people like to use that. See, some people, like I told you, Ecclesiastes, if there's a New Testament, 2 or 3 books in the New Testament that you could use to get some heresy started, you go to Matthew, Acts, and Hebrews, and maybe James. Those 4. But if there's one book in the Old Testament, it is Ecclesiastes, because it's written from the standpoint of a man looking at things, at life as it is under the sun, and for the most part, not counting God into the picture in every single statement. He mentions God once in a while, but he's not just really filtering everything through God. It's kind of standing back and just looking at men, the human race as a whole, what he has to endure and go through. And he says that do not all go to one place. He says, see no good. Somebody's seeing no good because their soul isn't filled with good. They don't have enough in them to see good. If your soul is filled with good, and you're thankful, you're that kind of person, you can find good in anything, or most anything. You shouldn't spend a whole day without finding some good and seeing some good. I mean, it's there. If you've got good inside, it's gonna highlight and single out and point out the good on the outside, and you'll see it. Yet has seen no good. Do not all go to one place. That is, when it's all over, saved and lost people go to the same place. what he's saying. Well, physically speaking, yes. Saved and lost people both go to the grave. There's no special graveyard just for saved people. Go to the graveyard, you'll find lost people and saved people both buried there. But that's about where it ends. They're not all go to one place. He's not really trying to speak of the afterlife and resurrection for the redeemed and all. He's not even getting into that. He's just talking about life as it is, and from the birth until the death. Not anything later, not anything before, nothing like that. Just talking about until you die. So he's saying that not all go to one place. I guarantee you, some people use that to say, well, when you die, the Bible says you all go to one place. That's what Hollywood believes. They think everybody goes to heaven when they die. Everyone. I think nobody goes to hell. Every time you turn around, somebody out there. I remember when Sammy Davis Jr. died back years ago. I guess it was sometime in the '80s. I remember walking through a grocery store, Walmart or something, had a magazine on a rack, and it was like the next issue after he died. So he'll be a star in heaven too. Well, what does that mean? That means they hope he is. That means they're going to pretend that he is because that's what they hope they're going to be one day. They hope they're going to go to heaven. And the logic is, if Sammy Davis Jr. goes to heaven, then I'll go to heaven because I liked him and I kind of agreed with him. I liked, we're all kind of the same family down here. We're all going to heaven. Well, not necessarily. Might all be going to hell. See, must be born again. They didn't even talk about that. So do not all go to one place. They think they do. Yeah, I remember I got the DVD set of Pittsburgh Steelers history over at the office. I mean, when I first watched that, I was watching some stuff on Terry Bradshaw, who is a professing Christian. He claims to be saved. In fact, they used to have a track, his testimony track that they would hand out and stuff. And it's not a very strong one, and I never really felt real sure that he was either way. But it has him in that thing. When he goes back to Pittsburgh, like after 10 or 15 years, to receive some city award for something, some Pittsburgh City Sports award of some kind. He goes back there, and when he gets that thing, he just looks up to heaven, and it's because Art Rooney had died. The owner that founded the Steelers had just died within the past 2 or 3 years. And he looks up to heaven and says, "Art, I know you're listening. I know you're looking down on me right now." I thought, I wouldn't bet on that at all. I don't know much about the Rooney family, but I think they're probably Catholic. I'm pretty sure they're Catholic. And I don't know too many Catholics that have been born again, do you? Maybe once in a while you run into one, but people just think that. They think if somebody's a good-natured person and people love him, Art Rooney was an older man, the whole city of Pittsburgh just for the most part admired him, looked up to him as a great man in the city, and done so much for the city. He just has to be in heaven. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not according to God's standard. So people think they all go to one place, but if all the people that are thinking they all go to one place, in a sense, they're right. They all go to hell. See, but they don't all go to heaven. That's what they're thinking. That'd be a safe thing to say. Anybody who subscribes to the philosophy, everybody goes to one place, they are all going to one place because they haven't taken the cure to keep from it. So they're all going to the common place of 90% of the human race or more, and that's a place called hell. All right, verse 7. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. That's true according to the New Testament as well. Come to Romans right quick. It says that God is their belly. Romans, and we'll get one in Philippians too. Romans chapter 16 first. I mean, you stay so busy taking care of your different duties and responsibilities, you never just take time to sit down and analyze it. But if you ever had the time, you have to really analyze, why do you work? Why do you take care of things? Why do you go out and make money if you're doing that? What's it for? Just narrow the thing right down to its lowest common denominator is to put food in your belly and say a lie. Okay? It's when I got to buy clothes too. Why you got to buy clothes? Why you got to buy clothes? Why don't you just stay home? You don't have to have clothes if you stay home. Nobody see you anyway. Well, I can't stay home. I got to go out. Go out to do what? Work. To do what? Feed yourself. See? Self-preservation. That's the first law of humanity. Romans chapter 16, verse 18, for they that are such serve not our Lord Jesus Christ, but their own belly. There it is, serving their own belly. And by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple, meaning, false teachers preaching the false doctrines and things, or feeding their belly. Look at Philippians right quick. Philippians 3 and verse 19. Philippians 3:19, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly. Look at that. And whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. That their God's their belly. Their God not the God of the Bible. The God's their belly. That's who they're serving. That's who they worship. All right, back over here. So he got that right when he said that. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. Verse 8, for what hath the wise more than the fool? Or what hath the poor that knoweth to walk before the living? Well, both of them have an appetite. That's the kind of thing he's, dealing with there. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. That is, to wonder, not W-O-N-D-E-R, not wonder, but wander around looking for something that you can't get, or have the mind wandering for it, have the mind, instead of being resting in the Lord and just counting your blessings and thankful for what you got and content with what you got, you keep wandering. You keep wanting more and more and more, and yet you can't get it. He said that's a vanity. It's better to have something right there in the side of your eyes, have possession of something that you can lay hold on and claim it and keep it, than to spend your life wandering for things. Violation of the 10th commandment, of course. Coveting the stuff. Verse 10, that which hath been is named already. This kind of runs you back to chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. There's no new thing under the sun. Hath been that which is, hath been already of old time. That which hath been is named already, and it is known, that it is man. It's like man, the way of man. It's common among men down here. Instead of God up there, it's just the way of man, not to come up with something new. It's always same old stuff. That it is man, neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. That is, man down here, and he just keeps up, like I just said, the same old stuff over and over. And God's much mightier than man, and man's not going to contend with him. Verse 11, seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man the better? Of course, a lot of those things have been talked about all through the book, but just in these last few verses, he come down through there mentioning some different things. So there's many things that increase vanity. So what is man the better? He just has a negative outlook, is what he's doing. Because as I told you, Proverbs is the book of Solomon's wisdom. Ecclesiastes is the book of Solomon's foolishness. That is, he's a man that made some foolish mistakes in his life. I'm not going to call Solomon a fool, and I'm not doing that. I'm just saying he made some foolish turns in his life. He made some foolish choices, and he wrote down some of the folly for you and I to learn from, some of the mistakes, so we wouldn't have to make the same mistakes. That thing about one man among 1,000 I found, but one woman among 1,000 I've not found. Well, that's the voice of experience. He had 1,000 women. Right? He's not saying you need to go out and get 1,000 women. He's not saying I should have had 1,000 women. He's just saying I did have 1,000 women. And wasn't any of them worth having. That's basically what he said. I pointed out in Proverbs the other night, he also said that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. A wife, singular. The man that wrote it had 700 of them and 300 concubines. And yet when he started talking about what you need, he said, just one will do. Wife, singular. See? He's giving you counsel based on his bad judgment. Verse 12, for who knoweth what is good for man in this life, all the days of his vain life. See how negative he is? His vain life. And wouldn't it be something, one of my kids born, I'd say, well, son, welcome to this vain life. You know, he don't have a very positive view of things. All the days of his vain life, he don't have to throw in that adjective like that, but he does. Vain life, which he spendeth as a shadow. For who can tell a man what should be after him under the sun? Well, the idea is God, when it comes to specifics, only God can. In the general sense, anybody can. I mean, anybody been reading the Bible can tell what's going to happen after you die, what's going to be after you in the sense of God's plan, the rapture and first resurrection, and tribulation, and millennial kingdom, reigning with Christ, white throne judgment, ruling and reigning forever, all those things. But specifically, you can't say what's going to happen in this world after a man dies. How's his kids going to turn out? Are they going to be saved or lost? Are they going to be rich or poor? Are they going to, carry on the family name with honor? Are they going to marry the family name? You don't know. Probably somewhere along the way, somebody will marry it. That's not the way it usually goes, So one fellow said, you look up further enough up the family tree, you usually find somebody hanging on it. so, don't take too much pride in your family name. Yeah. Oh yeah. It all comes from God. Yeah. So no, in that sense, nobody. Look at how it says it. Who can tell a man what should be after him under the sun? Technically, nobody, except God. And if a Christian tells you, it's because God told them. So it comes from God. That's a very good point. That's exactly right. Chapter 7, verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment. Proverbs 22:1 has a similar verse. Says a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. And people say, if I had my ruthers, you've heard them say that. If I had my ruthers, well, you better rather what God ruthers. God ruthers that you have a good name. Most people couldn't care for that, but that kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. All these, famous people, shooting off their big mouth. I mean, they could be making a good name for themselves. I admire people that because when you get up there with the fame and the fortune, the pressure has got to be a lot stronger to do wrong, to do evil. And the ones that get up there with the area so thin and they're in view of everybody, and yet they maintain their integrity and they're humble and they continue to just stand back and let other people have the glory and honor and they don't seek it, and that just makes them shine even brighter. And I appreciate it. Very few of them like that, but I appreciate it when I see it. And who was it? I mean, I like football and stuff. I was thinking of, I think I've told you about this quarterback for New England Patriots, Tom Brady. He did that. Somebody's asking him because, with the football season gets going, the playoff gets started, all these players start spewing off their mouths back and forth, a lot of them about the opposing teams. And what I'm going to do this to you. You just wait till Sunday. I'm going to, all that. And somebody asked Brady, who's a good quarterback, they asked him about, he's kind of quiet spoken. He never had much to say. And, you have anything to say for yourself about what your plans are? He said, about what you're going to do to put a stop to so-and-so or this or that. And he just said, no, that's not for me to say. He said, my job's to get out on the field and perform and do my job, and people can say what they want about it. He said, that's not my job to toot my horn, in so many words. And I appreciate people like that because it's easy for little old me to say that because I don't have that much pressure to toot my horn anyway. But we don't think of ourselves as that great. We hadn't got that much of a temptation to think we're that great. We're just tooting along here, best way we can. But these fellas up there making millions of dollars a year in TV commercials, major, 20, 30, 40 million people watching them all at the same time on TV and stuff. All kinds of advertisers coming to them, wanting to get them to sign contracts for endorsements and just, that stuff will go to your head real quick. And the ones that don't let it go to their head, I look up to them. To me, those are the role models. The ones that don't let it go to their heads. You take Reggie White. He died back last year, I guess, about a year ago, wasn't it? Something like that. He was the defensive end for the Green Bay Packers. He's a Christian. They called him the Minister of Defense. The guy made the Pro Bowl like 8 or 9 years, something like that. And he's a Baptist preacher from somewhere in the South, I think, wasn't it? Was it Alabama, Tennessee, or he was a defensive end for the Green Bay Packers, and they called him the Minister of Defense, is what they called him. And you never heard him say anything, out of line that I can ever remember. I got a book written by him, in fact, called "Fighting the Good Fight." Is what the book's called. And it's about his efforts to help people and minister to people, and it's not just about football. It's use what you can to help others and stuff. And he helped a lot of these inner city kids and helped put together programs to help them. And he didn't sign on endorsements with anything that's immoral or wrong. I think his biggest endorsement was Campbell's soup. Like, and I admire people like that because the pressure is so. I guarantee he could have made a lot more money with Budweiser than he could Campbell's soup. Probably, I don't know that, but I would imagine he could. But don't you know Budweiser would like to get their preacher messed up? A famous preacher, win him over to their side. Don't you know they'd like to see Reggie White holding a can of beer and talking about, little beer never hurt anybody, something like that. But he would never do it. So those people deserve some credit. What got me on all that? Oh, yeah, okay. All right, verse 1. Okay, 7 verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Boy, you talking about negative. Look at that. Day of death is better than the day of one's birth. Well, it is in the sense that you don't have all the negative things of life ahead of you. They're all behind you now. And now you get to going out of here and not have to deal with any more problems, any more suffering, assuming you're saved. But you ever been to a funeral and a preacher get up there and say, well, his suffering is over now. Well, if you're saved, you're sitting there thinking, well, I hope it is. I sure hope it's over. But if he's not saved, it ain't over. His suffering's just beginning now. And of course they never, deal with that. So he says that the day of death is better. He says the day of death and the day of one's birth, because in Solomon's view, life is vanity. Well, obviously, it's good to get the vanity behind you and not have to look forward to it, but look back at it. Verse 2, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. Well, good point he's making there. Modernly speaking, we think of the house of mourning as being a funeral home, go to a funeral service. It's better to go to a funeral and sit there and take instruction than it is to go out somewhere and just have a big old, party, have a good time or something. It's not going to make you think about anything. But you go to a funeral, you sit there, hear no preaching at all. Just sit there and think. See some people crying, some people grieving because they just lost their father or their husband or something like that. Children that just lost their dad, and you begin to identify with somebody else's sorrow. It'll kind of put your life in perspective for you. It's kind of, it's true. You made a true statement there. And on top of it, now it's, quite common to go to a funeral home. Somebody's going to get up and preach, more often than not. They don't do much preaching and you kind of talk a little bit, but still you get some scripture, you get a little something, hopefully to get you to thinking about God or you prepared to meet God. So it said it's better to go there than it is to go to the house of feasting. For that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. The ones that still remain, that is, will lay it to their heart. Verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. There's a good New Testament verse for that over in 2 Corinthians 7:10. 2 Corinthians 7:10, he says that godly sorrow worketh repentance. See, now, bad kind of sorrow don't, but godly sorrow worketh repentance. And that's the ideal thing. If you endure some grief and some sorrow that drives you to repent of some sin or some way of life or some direction you were going in that gets you back on the straight and narrow, then amen. That's very well worth going through. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. It kind of goes with the previous verses about the day of one's death, and better to go to the house of mourning, and in the midst of all of that you're going to see sorrow, and that's going to work on your heart. The heart of the wise, verse 4, is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. In a sense, you could say that the church could be a house of mourning. I mean, after all, what do they call that? Some of the old Methodist churches, what do they call that altar down at the front of the church? The mourner's bench. Okay. So what it said, the heart of the wise, let's say that's you, is in the house of mourning. Why? Because you're coming to a place where that if you have a sin, if you have a problem in your life, it needs to be corrected. This is a place where everyone, the whole spirit of this place, is supposed to be promoting the idea of you mourning over that and getting that thing right. There's no other place out there like that. That's not the case in the workplace. They want you to hang on to your sin. I mean, you get right, you put them in a bad light. So they don't want that. You're not going to find that you're not going to find everybody on your street getting together, hoping you'll get that thing straightened out in your life and get right with God. They're not going to get behind you. They're all mixed up and running 10 different directions themselves. But you come to this place, there's one body, there's one spirit, there's one expectation that if you're not right with God, here's a place to get right. See, is the idea. So in that sense, you could say the church is a house of mourning. Maybe we'll rename the church, I'll go to the house of mourning. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning. That is, for example, you get up and come to revival service. Well, it's good to meet new people. It's good to meet any visitors that we're going to have. It's good to meet the preacher, the evangelist, whoever's preaching. All that is good. But the fact is, if anybody that we get in here is very, very apt to rake you over the coals somewhere along the way. So in that sense, you're going to the house of mourning. He's going to tug on your heart and stab you a few times, and you're not going to go out of there the same way you came, unless you're just hard-hearted, And yet you get up and come on in. Why? Because you're wise. So you're wise to do that. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Always partying, having a big time, keeping up. We keep up with when we're going to have a revival service, when somebody else is going to have a revival service. We're going here, we're going there, we're doing this, we're doing that, They keep up with stuff too. They keep up when the next party is. So-and-so was having a party this weekend. So-and-so was having a going-away party. So-and-so was having a New Year's Eve party. So-and-so, they got all the parties written out on the calendar. They're going to make as many of them as they can. Had somebody last year, I heard them talking about going to a divorce party. I never even heard of a divorce party. So they're going to a divorce. They didn't tell me that, but I heard it talked about at work. A girl going to a divorce party. She's going to marry this fella. And been messing around with him for a while, but his divorce wasn't final, and his divorce was going to be final, like coming up the next day or two, and they had a divorce party planned, because she wants to marry him, so for his divorce. So, well, that's probably going to your divorce party that 2 years, if it didn't last that long. So the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Verse 5, mirth, joy, gladness, just partying, having a big time, laughing about everything. Verse 5, it is better to hear the rebuke of the wise. That's what you'd get if you came here, hopefully. You get some rebuke from the pulpit and from one another once in a while, and by word, by example, all kinds of things. Just the whole atmosphere ought to rebuke you if you're not right with God. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. Well, you hear the song of fools all kinds of places. Go out to the bar room, they'd be singing it out there for sure. And concerts, and all kinds of gatherings. Pretty much any place people get together, somebody's going to crank up some music and get it going, somehow, some way. We have that Christmas dinner out there at work. Last 2 or 3 years, they brought a boom box out of the office and put a bunch of Christmas. I think they had Elvis, singing Blue Christmas and stuff like that out there. We're trying to eat the food, They got a bunch of that worldly stuff going on. And the people just do that. They just got to have their music. The guys I work with, they can't get through a day's work without turning on a bunch of rock music or a bunch of country western, people from Nashville moaning and groaning, just listen to that stuff all day. They just got to have it. They just can't stand that quietness, because when I think what it is, I don't think they've ever analyzed it. I think what it is, when they get still and they get quiet, I think there's a still small voice that shows up once in a while and starts speaking to their heart about some things, and they want to drown that out. So give me that headset, put on that thing, turn on that music, and keep those demons in there so the Holy Spirit can't get in. I think that's kind of what the thing is. For a man to hear the Song of Fools, and go all night with the Song of Fools, all kinds of ungodly music out there, Song of Fools. They had a guy on a radio station, some local fella here. He's connected with First Baptist Church. I'm not sure who he is, what his name is, but he's recorded 2 or 3 CDs, and they had him on the radio this morning. I heard that, and before I put my, actually going to listen to the tape, and I heard that, and I thought, I'll see what this is about. And that guy got going there, and he's been to Nashville and stuff. He does Christian contemporary music, and they had one of his songs they played, just as worldly as it can be. And the guy on the radio station asked him if he'd listen to any other kind of. He's built a church, got a church going up in Nashville someplace, some big Grace Community Church, big old ecumenical thing. And said, oh yeah, we'll just busting at the seams, And I thought, yeah, you probably are that kind of music. And then they asked him if he listened to any other kind of music or just gospel music, He said, oh yeah, I like some other music too. He said, I got a Beatles thing the other day, and I like some U2, and that's a rock group, and just different stuff. Here he is listening to all that and trying to do God music too. It's a Song of Fools, all that stuff is. Well, we're out of time. Let's stop there and we'll go further. We'll do that next week. Ecclesiastes, and we're in chapter 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. We got down through verse 5 last time, where it ended up saying it is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for man to hear the song of fools. And a lot of foolish songs out there, a lot of fools singing songs. Come think of it, I heard today, I haven't heard the song. I don't really have any plans to hear it, but I heard that Willie Nelson had come out with a song promoting the Sodomites. And I don't know what it's about, but it's something about I don't know. It's just something about supporting them, or at least accepting them, or something. And if so, it's just another song of fools. Seems like everybody getting on that bandwagon these days. They got that stupid Western they just came out with, and Brokeback Mountain is what it's called, about the Sodomites, and there's gonna be more and more of that, and you got just more and more, things happening that are supporting that stuff, and at least, if not supporting it, at least condone, or at least tolerating it and not speaking out against it. And it's going to get to be probably eventually where it's considered to be illegal, and to speak out against them. And I guess we'll just have to get arrested or something when that happens. But what's wrong is wrong, and let God be true and every man a liar. And we just have to preach the word, and you don't sing about stuff like that and glorify it. Verse 5 said, it's better to hear the rebuke of the wise. That's what you try to do here. You come here, and hopefully you got a preacher that got, been studying and praying and gotten in the Word of God, and not dabbling in the world all week, but dabbling in the Word all week, and got some words of wisdom for you, and you come here to hear the rebuke of the wise. You ought to want to be rebuked if you need it. I mean, who else is going to rebuke you? If I don't rebuke you, who's going to do it? See? I mean, your husband might not rebuke you. Your wife might not rebuke you, because they don't want to have division in the home and problems. I mean, they will if they have to, probably, but maybe, just maybe, Brother James will deal with this, and I won't have to fool. Well, see, it's kind of, I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, that's part of my job, and it would create problems if it were up to each one of you, whether it be husbands, wives, or neighbors, or brothers, sisters, whatever, to have to rebuke one another. Because there's always that inner feeling of, well, who do you think you are? Okay? But if you got a figure over you, at least spiritually speaking, a spiritual leader, you kind of expect it from him. Okay? So that's part of a pastor's job. Of course, it's also on occasion it's somebody else's job too. God might lead somebody else to give you a rebuke once in a while, and you ought to be thankful for it. Not somebody rebuke you every day for something, but once in a while when you need a good rebuke. somebody comes up and gives you that rebuke, you ought to say, I appreciate that. I need that. You might not appreciate it right then, but when you do get your eyes open and realize that was the proper thing, then thank them for it. Say, most people would have never told me that. Been afraid to break a friendship or something, and you come to tell me that thing. I needed to hear that. Verse 6, for as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. Well, thorns under a pot, that's, of course, they make, wouldn't make a very pleasant sound, but no more than the laughter of a fool would, but also that's just temporary. They burn up real quick and be gone. They won't last very long. So it's like something that's not going to last. It's just a temporary annoyance, and that's it. So don't worry. In other words, don't worry about the fool. Don't worry about what the fool's doing. As the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad. That is, he's bothered by it when he sees it. Not necessarily oppression of himself, but when he sees an injustice, he sees somebody being oppressed by somebody else, he doesn't just ignore it. It bothers him. He gets upset about it. It's called righteous indignation. He gets upset and says, that ain't right. That just ain't right. And he wants to do something about it. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad. And a guilt destroyeth the heart. A guilt as in a bribe. Bribes, see that in Proverbs some, of that kind of a gift. And trying to appease somebody with a gift or a present or something. Verse 8, I'm not turning you all these references. There's a good reference on that about the bribe. Proverbs 15:27. If you want a good quick reference beside verse 7. Proverbs 15:27 and also Proverbs 29:4. Just a couple quick references on that kind of thing. Somebody using a gift to bribe someone. And very, very common practice. Verse 8, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. That's a good thing to remember. The patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. The idea is the patient in spirit will wait on something and wait for the end of it, which is better, it says. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. Things generally start out not so hot, not so great, and then hopefully if God's in it, you're going to follow God's lead, and that thing will get better as time goes by. But it's not so great when it starts out. You just, by faith, you just say this is the right thing to do. And most people are of very low character, very little patience, and they won't get with something at the beginning. They want to wait and see if it's going to really prosper and bloom a church, for example. They don't want to start a church. They want to wait till one gets going, and everybody else does all the hard footwork and builds up something, get something going, and then they get a great mighty ministry going up. Then everybody wants to come get on board. Remember the old little red hen? It's that kind of thing. But very few people have the character to just get in on the thing at the beginning, whether it's starting a church as a pastor, or whether it's just joining with him like we did at the very beginning. Very few people wouldn't have anything to do with something like that. Most preachers that go off to school, that come out of these schools, they don't come out of there with the intention of going somewhere and starting a church. They come out of that seminary or whatever they're coming out of. They come out of that thing looking for a pulpit. They don't come out of there looking for a street corner. In other words, they don't come out of there. I mean, they get real pious about it. I've been studying the Southern Baptists this week, and I'm just getting stirred up. I'm gonna be stirred up for about a month straight, probably. And you get on their website, they got all this pious talk about we're fulfilling the Great Commission and all this stuff. I thought, you're not fulfilling the Great Commission. That's just your talk. That's just for you to say that's why you do what you do. That is not their primary objective. Because if your primary objective is just to fulfill the Great Commission, then you're not going to do a bunch of stuff that they do. You're going to skip a bunch of that nonsense and get right down to fulfilling the commission. If you just want to fulfill the Great Commission, that's going to all the world and preach the gospel. And baptizing those that believe. Well, then you don't necessarily have to have a pulpit to do that, do you? You don't have to come out of the school and start looking for a pulpit as long as it's in a church of 100 people or more. I don't think I read that in the Great Commission. The way you fill the Great Commission is find a church with 100 or more people and pastor that church as a full-time pastor. I don't find that to be it. And I'll get off that, but they got that thing going. What they don't understand is, they haven't been trained to believe it. They haven't been conditioned with the idea that it's going to be rough at the start, and then you get somewhere and you build up something, and then you got the honor of having built up something great, and you get to maintain it and keep it going and watch God bless it. Oh no, they don't want that. They want it already booming and going, and they just come jump behind the wheel. And there's no honor in that. And that's why they're there. See, there's no honor in it because they didn't build it. They didn't make it what it is. They weren't part of the foundation of that thing, the structure of that thing, whether it be a business, I don't care what it is. And because of that, after they've been there a year or two, they're ready to go somewhere else, try something else. Why am I not wanting to go somewhere else? See? Why am I not wanting to leave here and go pastor some other church? You said, well, nobody would have you. I doubt. I imagine they would. I bet you on a mailing list the size of ours, I bet I could find some pulpits. I bet I could get on there and have some shot at some other churches, bigger churches. In fact, I've had people ask me, about, coming there and stuff. And I have no desire to leave here. I mean, I like it here. This is my baby, so to speak. Why? I was here from the beginning. I'm not interested in leaving here and going anywhere, because I'm now experiencing what that verse says. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. Now, we're not at the end, but we're sure not at the beginning anymore either. See? I mean, we got 10 years behind us, and we've come a long way. We've accomplished a lot, and we're looking forward to doing even more and more and more. Well, who would have guessed 10 years ago that we would have accomplished as much as we have thus far? Okay? And a lot of these places never accomplished much of anything yet. See? They're too busy swapping pulpits and stuff. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning. So the thing is, one great saying somebody come out with, one of these good church leaders, he said always begin with the end in sight. Always begin with the end in sight. In other words, have a goal. Have something you're wanting to accomplish. You can always change and adjust along the way, but always begin with the end in sight. I'm afraid a lot of churches that start out from scratch don't do that. They just start out and say, well, we're going to have a church. Well, why? Why are you going to have a church? What are you going to do? Right. Well, what are you going to have a church for? What? What are you going to try to accomplish? You're going to start a business, then you got something you're going to try to make. You're going to try to build. You're going to try to manufacture. You're going to try to sell. You're going to try to do something. If you're going to have a church, what are you going to try to accomplish? Well, we just want to have our own church. Well, you won't last. There's no vision. Where there's no vision, people perish. You got to have a vision. So get a vision. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Somebody that's patient and just gets on board and waits and just toughs it out and knows that it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It might get worse before it gets better. And if it does, we'll just ride that out too. But we're just going to be patient. But the proud in spirit won't do that. They want to jump in and have it all right now. They want to have all the glory, all the preeminence, all the show, everything right now. And those people wind up quitting. They wind up throwing in the towel. Well, verse 9, be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. James 1:19 talks about being slow to wrath. You don't be real hot-headed and quick-tempered. Well, it's just the way I am. Well, just change. I grant you anything, I guess, could get anybody hot on some subject, but it should not be a way of life for you. You just fly off the handle all the time. I mean, anybody's going to lose their temper once in a while. I don't justify that either. I do it. I don't justify that it's wrong when I do it. Anybody can do that, but it should not be a way of life. It shouldn't be something you do constantly all the time. Well, that's just the way he is. Well, that's the way he just ought to change then. Just ought to change. You shouldn't be hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools. See, it's like it's already down there, just resting, just waiting for somebody to turn the knob a little bit, and out it comes. Well, don't let it rest there. Make it so that it has to actually get in there and then come out. It's not even in there yet. Just let the Holy Spirit rest in you. Amen. Verse 10, say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. So he's saying, say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? That is, don't you go around and say something like, well, why was it any better back then than it is now? I think we're doing a lot better today than we were back then, and don't be doing that. Because why? He says in Jeremiah 6:16 that you ought to stand in the way and ask for the old paths. So he said that's the way you ought to be walking in. Don't look back and condemn the old paths and condemn the old days, and don't question about how things used to be better. Certainly they were better. It's human nature. Human nature tells you that things get worse, not better. Darwin had the thing all backwards. And he says, so don't you go around saying what is the cause that the former days were better than these? Well, the cause is human nature gets worse, not better. You know, all these people talking about, well, back in 1611, they didn't have the knowledge and understanding and the education and the wisdom that we have now. So a Bible translation today can be far superior to that of 1611. Well, that's just plain stupid. That denies what the Bible says about men. The Bible says men are corrupt, and men don't get better. They get worse and worse and worse. In the last days, men should be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers. That means 400 years from any day, things are going to be worse, not better. So the further back you go, the better things get. So look back and say, man, I wish it was as good as it used to be. Now, in some ways, it might be worse. I mean, you might have more disease. You might have more, economic problems and things of that, different things that way. But as far as moral standards and spiritual tone, things that really matter the most, as far as you and God are concerned, it used to be better. It used to be better, certainly in this country. I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Hang on. Maybe not. Now, I grant you can go someplace, you go like the Dark Ages, in Europe, and things were worse then. I'm talking about in any given country. You can look back and find better times at somewhere in the past. And you go way, way back, and it begins to have a cycle, maybe. You go in Europe, you go back so many years, it was better, and then you go back so many years before that, it was worse. Then go back years before that, it was better again. So it runs in cycles. But you can always look back and find a better time. I've been reading an article. I got a New American Magazine in this week, and anybody get that besides me now? I know somebody used to get it, but I got an article in that. I was reading it's on immigration, and they have an article on the history of the story of immigration in America, and they're going back and talk about how we used to handle immigration, and how we handle it versus how we handle it now, or basically don't handle it now, and it's incredible. Of what we used to do. Our policy used to be when somebody would come into this country, number one, we controlled how many came, and number two, we were very strict about where they settled, the naturalization process. In other words, when they came into this country, they became Americans, and they forsook their homeland, and they didn't come here and bring their own little culture and begin to group together and have their own little Chinatown, their own little, didn't do that. And we just kind of lessened up over the last 4 or 5 decades and allowed them to pretty much do what they want when they get here. But early on, we didn't do that. And we were very cautious about it because we understood that we had a great thing going with America and the American way of life, and we just kind of let off of that. Now everything's all politically correct. Everybody's afraid to touch it. Everybody wants to be, I get put out with these stupid little terms, so-and-so and African American. There's no such thing as an African American. There's no such thing. He's either African or he's American. Which is it? I mean, take your pick. I don't care what you are, but you're one or the other. He's no more African American than I'm English American. My ancestors are from England, but I'm not from England. His ancestors are from Africa, but he's not from Africa, right? He was born right here. I was born right here. I'm an American. He's an American. Now, if you want to be an African, then get on the boat and go. But quit calling yourself African American or any. I just said African. It'd be anything. I mean, Italian American. They say that about the ones up in Northeast, New Jersey and New York. Italian American, Italian American. He's not an Italian American. The only time that he would have been Italian American would have been if he was possibly when he was on the boat halfway between there and here. He might kind of be Italian American. Because his Italy is behind him and America's in front of him. He's in the transition. Maybe that. But after you get here and you become a citizen of this country, you're an American. That's just the way this country was built, and how about you getting away from that? Kind of like Hillary Rodham Clinton. Well, what is she? I like what one fellow said. He said, Hillary Rotten Clinton. Hillary Rotten. But that's ridiculous. She's either Hillary Clinton or she's Hillary Rodham. Which is it? Everybody wants to get it in between, We got all these liberated women, don't want to get the man's name, so they keep their father's name. Still a man. Isn't that wild? What was I talking about? Oh, verse 10, the former days. What is the cause of the former days were better than these? They most certainly were better than these. In most any situation you can think of, you look back a few years, you'll find that things used to be a whole lot better. I mean, you go back in this country 30, 40 years, you find prayer in the schools. Now you don't. You go back 30, 40 years, you find the 10 Commandments posted in the school building. Now you don't. You find Bible reading in the classrooms. Now you don't. You go back about 80 years, you find Charlie Darwin was not allowed in the schools. Now he is. Used to be a whole lot better than it is. Go back 200 years, you didn't even have public schools. That was a whole lot better. See? So, I mean, it used to be a whole lot better than it is now. What is the cause of the former days that are better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. So if you go around questioning the goodness of the former days, you're not too wise. He said it just is. Things just used to be better for the most part. You can find exceptions, but for the most part, the rule is it used to be a whole lot better. The good old days, as they would say. I grant you the Great Depression was a rough time, but people were a lot more family oriented, a lot more moral, and a lot more hard-working people than now. And the way they tried to fix all that stuff up after that just ruined everybody. Verse 11, wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. Notice the words, wisdom is good with an inheritance. It's like, of course, wisdom in itself is better than an inheritance. The idea seems to be that if you have an inheritance without wisdom, then you probably didn't get too much. But if you got an inheritance and you got some wisdom, then you'll probably use the money wisely. You'll probably be responsible with it. So wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. See the sun as opposed to, somebody, being, dead. Like look back chapter 6, verse 5. Talking about somebody that hasn't been born or an untimely birth, like in 6 verse 3. Verse 5 says, moreover, he hath not seen the sun. Talking about somebody never been born, never come into this world and enjoyed a life. So over here he's making reference back to that terminology when he says, by it there is profit to them that see the sun. That is, people who have been born, brought into this world, they can get an inheritance with some wisdom. That's a great thing. What he's talking about. For, verse 12, goes with what he said in verse 11. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. Both of them you can use to defend yourself. Wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. That is, more than money. Money does not impart life. Wisdom does. If you got the money without the wisdom, then you ain't got much. Kind of going with what he said in verse 11. All of it's together. Verse 13. In other words, if you have to choose between getting money and wisdom, you better take the wisdom. You can get both, amen. That's a double blessing. But if you can't get both, than dump the money and take the wisdom. Because Job says its price is far above rubies. Most people won't do that, though. Had a guy at work today. He walked by my table. He didn't know I saw him. I was out the other end of the building doing some things. I just happened to look up. He walked by there while I sat at my breaks, and I had a book I just got in. Actually, it was Brother Ruckman's book on music and musicians. And it's just talking about music and stuff and history of music and classical music and Christian classical music and the good ones and the bad ones and all these different things. And on the back of the book, I had it actually laying. The way it was laying was the back of it was actually showing, and it had some writing on the back of it, and it said in so many words that all music starts with God. And it said something about all, it's written in big, probably 14, 16 point font, maybe 18 point font. Said all music starts with God, and God's the reason for all music and stuff like that. And it ought, in so many words, it ought to be checked out with God and the Word of God, and something like that. This guy walks by and sees that laying there, and he reaches down and picks it up actually and looks at it and turns it over. I think looks at the front of it and just looks it over for a second and then turns around and lays it back down and goes on about his business. Southern Baptist. Now you say, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is he had an opportunity to learn something, and he didn't care. Put his stupid headset back on, listen to his country western music the rest of the day, or his rock and roll music all day long, and he just got a perfect shot right there at somebody showing him that there's a difference between the kinds of music. And if you're a professing Christian, don't you want to learn something about it? No, I don't, thank you. And he lays it back down and goes on about his business. Every little incident like that will come up at the judgment one day. Now, I didn't go to him and say, you really need to read this. I haven't even read it yet. I just got it. But the point is, it was laying there. I don't lay stuff like that around accidentally. I know when I'm not around, they're prowling through my stuff. I know that. And that's just fine with me. I want them to prowl through it. I don't have any Playboy magazines laying out there. Let them prowl. Get my Bible and prowl through it. I don't care. Read my marginal notes in my Bible. They might find their name written there. I don't care. I hope they do prowl through my stuff, because everything they see is the Holy Spirit saying, you need that. You need to get this. You need to take instruction about this. And over and over and over, every one of them puts it back down and goes about their business, puts their little worldly headset back on, and just tunes out God in the Bible every single day. And I just get, I just have to pray. I just get human mad about it sometimes. I just want to go ahead and pick up something and clobber the guy with it. Say, pick it up, idiot. Read the thing. You can read, can't you? It's not going to bite you. Will you not read it? Can you read? You just want to go off at them. But I don't do it. But listen, that stuff will come up at the judgment one day. Just simple little stuff like that. Had a guy one time talking about how much he knew about the Bible at work. Gonna impress me. He said, I got one of these little Bible games and for Christmas for my daughter or something or other. She got it from me or something, and I don't know, it's some little thing you type in something and asks you a question, and you answer the question, and it keeps score. It keeps score on how well you do. And I said, well, he's talking about how good he did on it. He's really surprised that he knew as much Bible as he did. And probably asking who got all the animals and got them in the ark, stuff like that, And I mean, the guy that was telling me this, I imagine my children could probably beat him on the thing, But he's really impressed with himself. And he said that at the time that we had just started our Bible Institute, and just started or put the bulletin out that told about it and everything. So I brought one to work the next day and gave to him. I said, really get interested in the Word of God. We've got Bible Institute. We just started up. You might be interested in that. He said, well, thank you. Never heard another word. Never even, I didn't expect him to sign up, but at least ask some questions about it. At least show some interest. Nothing. He don't care. You say, why? He's a Southern Baptist. That's why. Those people, listen, I'm getting ready to stomp them, okay? Throw me out of the church if you want to, but we're gonna stir up a mess is what we're gonna do. I'm just fed up with them. I've been putting up with them for 10 years, and as a church I have, longer than that before that, but I'm just fed up with them. And I have been studying the convention a little bit here lately. I've been looking at it. I know this is not in Ecclesiastes, but it probably is. You just don't see it. It's probably in there somewhere. And I'm just getting fed up with them. And we're gonna put a track out about it, and we're just gonna offend as many people as possible in the shortest time possible. And I'm getting sick of them. I'm getting sick of knocking on doors and having some snooty, good for nothing person that's probably lost looking down their nose at me because I don't go to their church. When I know and you know and we all know together that they can learn 10 times right here than what they could in the church they're going to. And they look down their nose at you like they got something you ain't got. They ain't got nothing I ain't got. Except a home in hell, probably, half of them. I seriously doubt their salvation. Because there's something wrong. I read my Bible about the fruit of the Spirit. And when I look at those people, I don't see it. There's something wrong about a person that walks around with a chip on their shoulder all the time, looking down at somebody else, and never even inquiring enough to find out what the difference is, and why does he know so much more than I know? Why isn't my church, if I got the biggest church in town, look like I would know more Bible than anybody in town? They never even think of it. They never think about what they're missing out on. We have special meetings here, year after year after year. We invite them to come. They never come. Well, I go to my church. Why don't you come here and hear some good preaching? Well, we have good preaching. No, you don't. You got a bunch of deadheads coming there and shaking. I've heard Southern Baptist preachers. One out of 20 you might be worth sitting and listening to. The rest of it's just baby food. And that's why you got nothing but babies out there. And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of them looking down their nose at me. We have got a good work going here. We've got a godly ministry. We've got a ministry that God has used all over this world to help people. And I am sick and tired of just standing back and just, not engaging with them. I'm going to engage them. And they can just do what they want to do about it. And I'm going to get them stirred up. I'm just going to just stir up or mess with them. Well, anyway, what was I doing? Verse, what is it? What was I talking about? How'd I get into that? Oh, they don't have any wisdom. All right. Verse 12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life. Let me finish the verse. Life to them that have it. That is, you got life. What's she talking about? She talking about me back there. You talking about me? All right. Excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. In other words, money can't give you life. Wisdom has to give you life. And if you don't have, you got to choose between the two. Then you take the wisdom. Let me tell you one more thing about the Southern Baptists I found out today. I was checking out some stuff on the internet before I came. They are seriously, I didn't know this, they are seriously building up more and more pressure in the convention. Even the president of the Southern Baptist Convention has sent out letters recommending that they do this, and they've established a committee to research. I just want to puke when I hear that. We've appointed a committee to research. You know what they're going to research? They're going to research whether or not they need to take the word Southern off of the Southern Baptist Convention. I hope they do, because they're unworthy of the word. They need to take it off. When they call themselves Southern Baptist Convention, they say that is controversial. And had a quote from a preacher, Southern Baptist preacher on that site, saying the word Southern needs to be removed from the name because it's way outdated. We're not just Southern anymore. We're all over the place, and it's offensive to other people in so many words. And when people think of the Southern, they think of the Ku Klux Klan and the turbulent 60s and the civil rights movements, and we don't want to get away from that image. I thought, good. I hope they do. I honestly hope they take the word Southern off, and I hope they take the word Baptist off while they're at it. Just call themselves the convention. Whatever, I'd call them. Really, I'm not kidding. I definitely hope they take the word Southern off, and I'd like to just see them go and take the word Baptist off. Because, 49% they're making us look bad. Running around thinking they're somebody and thinking they're not real Baptist. I hadn't met 10 Southern Baptists in my life that impressed me as being real Baptist. And yet, what do they think? They think we're not the real Baptist. They just, 13, consider the work of God, for who can make that straight which he has made crooked? Well, only God can. Look at Isaiah 42 right quick. Isaiah 42, verse 16. Maybe I'll get off of it now. Isaiah 42:16. Probably not, but we'll try. Isaiah 42:16. Y'all just need to pray. I'll calm down for Sunday. I'll tell you what, I just been loading up, and it's just about to blow a gasket. Uh, uh, Isaiah 42:16. 42:16. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not, and I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. God can do that. God can take something crooked and make it straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them. For example, were you not crooked before you got saved? And God straightened you out, didn't he? See? But can any man do that? No. See? So only God can do that. Make a crooked thing straight. And all right, back over here. So you can't do that. Who can make that straight which he hath made crooked? And never mind. I was going to say something else. Verse 14. I mean, that'll preach it too. Trying to make something straight, when it's already crooked. Verse 14. In the day of prosperity, be joyful, but in the day of adversity, consider God also has set the one over against the other, to the end that man should find nothing after him. The idea is life is just up and down, up and down. You can't figure out what's going on. I mean, God won't let you get just a full glimpse of everything and just see it all. It's just up and down, up and down. You don't know how it's going to turn out, especially after you're gone. It says nothing after him. That is, you might make plans for how your money is to be, or your estate is to be handed down to your children, but who knows what's going to happen after you're gone. I mean, you can only plan so much. So, well, I want so-and-so to have this, so-and-so to have this, so-and-so to have this. Okay, by all means, we need to do that, obviously, but, who knows what they're going to do with it. I mean, thought about it. I mean, a guy I worked with told me about some neighbors he had. The man's not even dead yet. The man's had some health problems, and had cancer and in and out of the hospital, and has not even died yet, and the family's already fighting about his property and everything, having a big old fight about it. And some of the family came over there and took some stuff while he was in the hospital, and when he got home, it wasn't even there. And then this guy I work with, he's just a neighbor, pretty nice fella. He's a neighbor. They tried to drag him in on it, and I forget how they tried to get him involved in it. Just a big old fight, and the guy's not even dead yet. Fighting his kids are fighting about it. Kids and stepkids and in-laws and outlaws and all that. Just a big mess. So you can plan, but you can't really determine how it's going to turn out. You don't know. And he said God don't want you to know everything anyway. Verse 15. All things have I seen in the days of my vanity. There is a just man that perisheth in his righteousness. They got a old saying, the good die young. Is the just man that perisheth in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man that prolongeth his life in his wickedness. I mean, don't seem like it ought to happen that way, but sometimes it does. Sometimes people die, and you can't figure out why. So why God let him die? You don't understand it, And if you think about it too long, you get mad. You get mad at God. Because you start saying, well, he didn't deserve to die. What about this reprobate over here? Why didn't you kill him instead? You can't do that. The thing to do is just stand back and say, God do it. He doeth all things well. God knows what he's doing, and I can't figure out what God's doing. God has his reasons, and he probably knew some things about this person or that person that I didn't know, or their children that I didn't know, or what's coming around the corner that I didn't know about. And the thing to do is just let it go. I had a fellow died just last year that brother Danny Craig over at Union City told me he knew personally. And he said there's been 3 or 4 people about in their early 40s just to drop dead here in the last year or so. He said it's strange. He said so and so was a good fellow, a good Christian man, just dead, just died in his sleep one night. And some do that, and lost people. I know a guy that was most likely lost and died in his sleep like that, about 43, 44, I think 43. And you can't figure it out. You know what's going on there. But he said that happened. He observed that, and he said that's part of the vanity that he's been talking about. Things like that go on that happen. So the thing to do is don't worry about it. Don't get your eyes right. Just keep your eyes on God. Don't try to figure out everything that goes on. That's God's job. You just do what God said. 16, be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Because he's not saying don't be righteous and don't be wise. He's saying, in essence, don't be a Pharisee. Don't get an imbalance of it. Don't get so righteous that you're no good. That is, if you're gonna be separated and holy, then put it to use. Because, in other words, have as I tell you many times before, don't just have input, have some output. Don't just be a hearer of the word, but be a doer of the word. Okay, Jesus talked about the Pharisees and said they say this and say that, but they do not. People that don't practice what they preach. So he said, be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. That is, too wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Which is what will happen. What happens if you you start filling up a bicycle tire or something? You just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding. You're gonna blow that thing out. You're gonna blow a big hole right in the side of it. The only way that you wouldn't blow a hole in it is if air was also going out of it somewhere. Then that wouldn't happen. But you can't just what about that air conditioner? Heat coming on right now. Heat running in here. How does that thing work? Well, there's a return. It sucks air in, it'll push air out. If this building didn't do anything but just blow air in, it would have to start blowing out the cracks and the things in the doors. If it couldn't do that, if it was just airtight, you'd wind up blowing a hole in the wall somewhere, blowing the ceiling tile up. See? Same thing with you. I mean, you breathe in, you breathe out. You don't just breathe in, and then blow up, You breathe in and out. So he's talking about that. So if you're going to get take in a lot of scripture, take in a lot of righteous instruction and training and religious training and separation, make sure you put it into practice outwardly as well. You have to have a balance there. Be not righteous. Pharisees didn't do that. So they had all this stuff, I mean, I've told you before, I've heard that they read and stuff, that some of them could actually quote the entire Old Testament. Well, if you got that much scripture in you, you ought to have a lot of good deeds going about. And yet they didn't. They walked around looking down their noses at people. So they were righteous over much, and they ended up destroying themselves. They get the greater damnation, Jesus said. 17, be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Of course, wicked in the sense of verse 15. See the wicked man, and there is a wicked man that prolongeth his life and his wickedness. He's talking about a lost man when he says that. He's not talking about you as a Christian. It's okay to be over a little wicked, but not a lot of wicked. He's not saying that. He's saying, be not over much wicked, that is, like the wicked man would be. Don't be a wicked sinner, is what he's saying. Be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time? Addressing a lost person, sinner, when he says that. It is good that thou shouldest take hold of this, yea, also from this withdraw not thine hand. This is a great verse, great statement. For he that feareth God shall come forth of them all. That's the thing. You ought to go back sometime and pick up your high school annual and look through it and find out who it says was the most likely to succeed. Chances are, whoever that was is not the one that succeeded. They probably did not, or at least certainly not in God's eyes. Who's going to succeed in God's eyes? If God published an annual, like a high school annual, and just picked out the one that's most likely to succeed, it would be the one that fears God. He shall come forth of them all. It's like a marathon. And God looks down here and said, they're all starting out the gate, about the same time. Everybody run along. They're all, here we got, 1,000 people lined up running in this thing. And God's just looking out across there, and it says, the winner is going to be this one, and that one. First, second, third place right there. And everybody else is looking at that thinking, how do you know that? How could you possibly tell that? Well, those are the ones that fear me. So they're going to come forth. It'll show. It's not obvious right now. It's not evident. You can't see it now. But over the long haul, as a marathon is run, many miles down the road, many years go by, you see what happened. The one that fears God will make the right decisions along the way. The one that fears God will marry the right kind of person. The one that fears God will stay in his Bible and pray. The one that fears God will go to the right kind of church. The one that fears God will side with the preacher when the going gets tough, or if the preacher's a crook, he'll side with the church against the preacher. He'll make the right choices because he fears God. And because of that, he'll wind up just pulling ahead of everybody else, little by little. Not overnight, not everything all at once, but little by little, that space will just get further out. They all start out like this, and here he goes. Just little by little. And by the time he gets down to the end of life, he's way out here. Everybody else is still back here. And in fact, the distance is so great, they can't even see what happens. So they just keep on losing. That's the way it is. He that fears God shall come forth of them all. Look over chapter 12 right quick. We didn't get very far tonight. I'll take full responsibility. No, I won't. I blame it on the Southern Baptists. It's their fault. 12 verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God. There it is. And keep his commandments. What'd you say? Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good, whether it be evil. Fear God. They used to have a thing. I guess it's kind of got out of style now, but back a few years back, they had these little things on the back of car windshields. Some of these young people running over. It said, what did it say? It said, fear, no fear. Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out what that, no fear, no fear. Huh? But no fear. Don't fear anything. No fear. You better fear something. Romans says the problem with that crowd ended up getting condemned in Romans chapter 1 is that there's no fear of God before their eyes. They don't fear God. It says, fear God and keep his commandments. All right, let's find us a stopping point here back in chapter 7, Ecclesiastes 7. For he that feareth God shall come forth of them all. If you want to find out who's going to succeed in life and mount to something, it'll be those that fear God. And if you're fearing God and God's directing your life, then you're successful. And if it's not evident and real obvious yet, just keep on going. You'll take the lead more and more and more. Right now, it might seem like it's a pretty even score, you're just barely leading. Just watch that thing as the years go by, and you'll blow them away. You'll just blow them away. You'll beat them by 10 touchdowns with the thing is over. All right, let's stop there, and we'll get into verse 19, 7:19. We'll do that next time.